Cool. Good afternoon. Hope you guys are still doing well. Welcome to the second session. I'm assuming everyone else who hasn't joined here is currently following the session on YouTube. I have pasted the link to the YouTube live in the comment section. So if you have network problems, just feel free to use the YouTube link. Cool. Okay, before we start tackling this over here, I just wanted to correct just one thing. First and foremost, can you guys see my screen? Let's confirm that first. Cool, cool stuff. There's just one error with the tests. If we come here, this is actually supposed to be a set equal and not equals. Right? Yeah, that's just an error on our side. Yeah, apart from that, sorry, everything is good to go. Cool. So let's just quickly go through the average calculator.py. First, we make sure that our tests are running as expected. Cool. All is good. Cool. So let's have a look at the first function, get scores from file, which takes in a parameter file name. So this function is supposed to read scores from the .txt file and return the scores as a list of strings without the new line characters. Right? I think that will make sense in a while, in a short space of time. Okay, so the arguments is once again the file name, which is the name of the file, and it's expected to return the list of the scores of the 15 students. Cool. Anyone who wants to give this a shot, just to take us through how you and your partner went about doing this? I'll open it to the floor. Is there anyone who's brave enough to attempt this for us? Okay, cool. No, you can unmute. Sure, yes, I can hear you. Hi, Ndu. Yeah, you can talk, Ndu. Yes, we can well, I can hear you, but you seem to be breaking. If you have headphones on, please maybe try disconnecting them for now so we can hear you clearly. Have you disconnected them? No, I'm struggling to hear you. Struggling to hear you, Ndu. There seems to be a hectic network problem where you are. Are you at the EC or which campus are you at? SCC. Okay, please try disconnecting your earphones. Have you disconnected your earphones? Okay, seems to be a problem there then. Yeah, there seems to be a problem maybe with the network because we are struggling to hear you. Okay, maybe okay, first things first, we'll come back to you, Ndu. Is there anyone else who would like to volunteer? Okay, we have Pegani. Pegani, you can unmute.
Sure.
Pegani, how are
Uh, but ngizwe ngithi
Yes, we can hear you.
okay. So the first function says get scores from a file. So we have the file scores.txt. So we need to read the file. So we're going to say with open file name.
Okay, we're gonna say with open, and then we say file name.
Yeah. Is the argument that was put there. And then we say comma, you do the other letter for reading. Put it in a string, okay. As file.
Okay,
So therefore, create a variable. If you can write, you can call it read data.
what should we call it?
Read data, just for specificity. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you say file. Yeah, you call the variable file, and then dot read. Yeah, it must have STR. And then you say clean, because they said you must return a list of strings, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So we say clean. Yeah, just give it a variable name called clean, and then read data dot split. So when you split that, it automatically changes to a list, but it's still there's still the strings. So we return clean.
And then we return clean. Okay.
Yeah. So oh yeah, I think it's done.
Let's see if it says passes. Okay. Awesome stuff. The test does pass. Cool. Is there dishes on the hands for Pegani? Great stuff.
It's going in.
Okay, is there anyone else who would have done it in a slightly different way? I'm sure there's more than one way to do this. Okay, I see. Yes, Ndu, please take us through what you would have done. Okay, please hold on just 1 second.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud
Okay,
and clear.
so
Loud and clear.
so let's say instead of changing the whole thing, where he has read data, it has not the echo. We used read lines. Thereby, we said read lines because read lines you said when you were reading the thingy for the first retreat, it automatically makes it a list once you use read lines.
Sorry, read line.
And then we created an empty list.
Okay.
Name of the list was new.
Read lines, okay. And then an empty list. What
Okay,
should
and
we
then
name the
after that,
list?
we used the for loop and said for line in this instance, and for line in read data.
Okay, so we should have an empty list. What should we name that variable?
I said new, just name it new list.
Let's call it new list. Okay, and then we give it an empty list.
Yeah, then you should remove the clean read data.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and then we use the for loop for line in read data. Then read data equal line dot replace.
Sorry? Please
Read
repeat that.
read data equal line
Okay. Call line
dot replace. Then
dot place.
then you have then you have the line, the dash, the new line characters. Yeah, then you have
New
that
line
thing.
characters.
Then you have a comma with an just empty thingy in lentole, empty string. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you say you append you say new list under that new list
New list
dot append.
dot append.
Yeah, inside read data. Then you return the new list.
Outside of the for loop and outside of
Yes.
we return new list. Okay. Is there a particular reason why you use the same variable for read data as well as the one that you are storing each line in?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
I'm saying, is there a particular reason why you're still using the same variable name that you're using here?
No, there's no reason. It's just that I felt like it was going to be a longer process because it's just a variable. Because it's just storing what's inside, and it's not much. There's no like it's just a variable. Doesn't matter the name.
Awesome stuff.
Right.
Great stuff. Okay,
Thank you.
cool. Teachers Alliance for Ndumiso. That is excellent work. Cool.
Yeah, imminently.
Ndumiso and Minentle from SCC George. Great stuff. Yeah, think this really makes sense. So once again, the fundamental difference between read lines and read, right? When you hover over read lines, it tells you that it returns a list of lines from the stream, right? Which is the file itself, right? You can even go as far as specifying the number of lines that you want to read. But if you don't pass anything here, by default, it reads everything. Cool. Ntobeko has a question. Yes, Ntobeko.
So can you hear me? Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I see that there's file name in that function on the first function. So how does it know that it's scores.txt?
Cool. That's a very good question. So how Python works when we have something called functions, right? So in a function, we have what we pass them as parameters, right? So in this case, our parameter here is the file name, right? So a parameter acts like a blueprint of some sort, right? A box. Okay, maybe let's move away from that example of a box, but think of it in this way, right? Since it is a parameter, some sort of a variable, whatever that's going to be in there, right? So if tomorrow we decide to call the file name class scores.txt, right? Because we just use the variable name file name, we wouldn't need to go back and individually change everywhere where we're using the name of the file, right? So how does it know that we're actually referring to scores.txt? The nice thing about using functions is that when you call the function, only then do you then pass it the actual information, right? Which is then we call the argument, right? So the parameter is this, right? File name. The argument is the actual value that you pass to that function, right? So in a case like this, we're using when we are testing for the scores, when we call the function right here, that's where we actually pass the actual file name, the actual value, right? So at the time when we're defining the function, we're just referring to it as a file name, whatever the file name is, right? So which means this function can be reusable for any .txt file that you can think of, whatever that you decide to name it. But we're just referring to the name of that file as a file name. We're giving it a parameter, we're giving it a variable where we can then now, when we call the function, pass the argument, right? So once we pass the argument, we are passing the actual value, right? So there's a difference between a parameter and an argument in functions, right? So a parameter is actually the variable that you give it's a name that you give to a variable or a parameter that will be passed in your function in future. So when you call the function, only then do you give the actual value, right? Do you then give the actual value of that parameter. So when you give the actual value, it's actually called an argument. You're passing an argument to the function. Right? I hope I didn't use too many terms that will confuse you. But essentially, how it knows is only when you call the actual function, do you pass it the actual value, then it knows. Right? But when we're still designing our function, when we're still coding our function, we just need to give it a box, a variable where it will then know that, okay, this is where the file name is supposed to be, right? I hope I made sense to you, Ntobeko. Okay, I'll come back to you, Paseka. So it says, Ntobeko says, so it would be the same if I said file name. So now the fundamental difference about doing that, right, is you are limiting your function should always be, you should always, by the way, Ntobeko says, would it be wrong if he essentially did this? I'm just gonna copy this here. So doing something like this, right? And then just using file name going forward. Now, remember when I said your functions, you should always aim for your functions to be reusable, right? They should not be stagnant, right? It should not be fixed, meaning your function should be able to be reused even in a different code base if you designed it well, right? So if we do this, we are fixing it to so that the file name is always scores.txt and should that then change, we would have to come here and change it as well, right? Which might be, it gets a bit chaotic, for lack of a better word, right? This is the importance of using parameters and arguments, right? So once we use that parameter that we're declaring there in the function, only when we call the function do we pass the actual name. So whatever name it is, whatever text, so long as the txt file exists, whatever name that we pass to it, it will work based off that, right? Okay, even if you were to take this and declare it globally, still in a way, which by the way, it makes the parameter null void. And in a case like this, it would still fix the txt file to one particular name, which we don't want that. We want our function to be reusable. We want our function to always be flexible, to be able to. So a good function is a function that you can always reuse without having to change a lot of things, right? A good function is a function that just does one thing. A good function is a function that is also flexible and can be reusable in any code base, right? So even in a case like this, the best practice would be to use your parameter, which then only then when you call the function do you pass the actual value, whatever the name of the text file is, right? That then will make sense, especially when you start to deal with a lot of functions. You'll see the importance of not having hard-coded values in your code. The less hard-coded values you have in your functions, the better, right? So a value like this is something that's just hard-coded. That's there. It'll always be there. It's like that, right? Whereas in a case like this, where we are just passing a parameter, then you're able to play around with it. You're able to whatever you decide to name that variable when you pass the argument. right? I hope that makes sense. Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of thumbs up. Cool. Going back to Paseka, okay, is it wrong to save a file name in a variable, then use it going forward? Okay, perfect stuff. I think I also covered the question that you're asking, Paseka. Always rather stick to using the variable name, which is the parameter, right? The parameter that is declared in your function here, right? So that when you call the function, it makes everything easier for you. Do we need the read lines line? We did not use it this side. Cool. So remember when I showed you guys the slides earlier on this morning, that there are three functions, three fundamental functions when it comes to reading from files. We have read lines, we have read line, right? And then we also have read. So read, as you can see there, it returns a string, right? It reads at most size characters from a stream, or if you don't pass anything, it reads from an underlying buffer until we have size characters, we've hit the end of file. EOF just simply stands for end of file, right? If size is negative or omitted, the function will read until the end of the file. So which means here, the read function essentially just returns all the characters or all the entire file as one big string, right? I think you can see that if maybe you, so here's the fundamental difference, right? Let's try to print this out. The time is flying. Right, we'll come back to this. Okay. Let's just call this function 60. Cool. Cool. So you see, it essentially returns this whole thing as one big string, right? So if you want to see its type, I'll tell you that the type belongs to the string class, right? So this type here is a string. So it returns the whole file as just one string. Whereas read lines returns everything as a list where each line represents an element, right, in the list. Cool. I hope I answered you, Lindo Goshe. That was your first question. Okay, yes, Lindo, you can unmute.
Hi, Police, can you hear me, please?
Bit of echo, but I can hear you.
Oh, the reason why I'm asking is because Nela, can you lower your volume down? The reason why I'm asking is because we use the same type of. Can you hear me, Police?
Yes, I can hear you. You can Linda.
Oh, okay. So we don't have that line 13. I saw you the types of ways to read it, but we don't have that line on line 13. We just went straight to the for loop after after the first with open.
So after with open, you had a for loop.
So is it maybe with open, is it already some form of reading as well? Yes.
No, no, no. Oh, okay. So when you use with open, you are not necessarily yet reading, but you are essentially telling Python that, listen, I want to open this particular file with the purpose of reading from it, right? Hence this R here. So if this was a W, you would be telling Python that, hey, listen, I want to open this particular file with the purpose of writing to the file. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So with this, you're only just saying, hey, I want to open a file and I want to read from this file. That's all you're saying, right? And using with is using what we call a context manager, which you wouldn't need to close the file at the end, since you're using a context manager, which essentially will close the file for you. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So you were still telling me that, how did you guys do it?
So we had that with open line,
Mhm.
and then let me just go. And then we went straight to the for loop. But before the with open line, we have like an empty list, like he did it, but just above the with open line.
Okay.
And then we have that with open line to read, and then we have a for loop. So the loop is looping in the lines of the file. Now with what you just said, I don't know if that's possible. And then after that, we appended the numbers. So
To that
we
list.
appended what we read, the lines that we read on the from the file, each numbers, the empty, yes, and then we return numbers.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I know. That might be would work probably, especially if your for loop, you say for maybe item in whatever you named your file dot read or whatever the case might be, then that just might be possible. But ideally, rather store everything in a variable and then loop from that variable, right? So in a case like this, where you're just storing this on read data, and then you're gonna use read data to then iterate through each element in that list or each line in the file. Does that make sense? Maybe? Linda, are you still with us? Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Perfect stuff. Perfect stuff. I hope that makes sense. So that's the fundamental difference between read lines, read, and read line. Right? So okay, there's nothing wrong with how Pegani did it. But this line using this demonstrates your understanding of if you're already looking for a list, since the function is already expressing you, without having to split it, you can just directly use your read lines method to then return that list of strings and just remove the new line character, right? So that's what essentially this does. You're just removing that new line character. You can even go as far as turning this to some sort of a list comprehension, which would turn everything to a one-liner. So something like, I'll try to move fast for the sake of time. Maybe call it new list, where you just take this. So in your list comprehension, you're just essentially saying, okay, just replace this for each, right? So this is essentially the same, right? This does the very same thing, just in one line, right? So here you're saying, for each line in read data, just replace the new line character with an empty. There you have it, right? It is really as simple as that. You'll see that something I missed. Yeah, that's essentially all that's needed. Cool. Yeah, cool. Okay. Are we still on the same page? We good? Cool stuff. Okay. Cool. Right, okay, we're gonna move on to the next one now. Gonna move on to the next function. Cool. Okay, cool. So now we have this list of scores that we are getting from the get scores from file. Now we know that our function is working as we expected, right? So now display scores will display the scores of the students on the same line, as well as it takes in the argument or the parameter of scores, which is a list of strings that will contain the scores, right? Okay. For the sake of moving a bit fast, okay, who would like to volunteer to have a jab at this one? There we go. We have Mtandegi. Mtandegi, you can unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I think with the previous one, there's a test that failed.
Yeah, so the reason why it was doing that is because of whatever that's happening inside this text file. We'll just fix that in a moment. Two seconds. Right. We just need this. Let's go and have a look again and see All good now, right?
Yeah, all good.
All good. Cool. Yeah. Just something happened with the text file. Okay, cool. While edits, do you want to maybe go for the display scores function?
Yeah, so what I did was I basically printed the string, these are the scores with a /n for a new line.
Okay.
Sorry. I said
So
print,
we print
are the scores /new line.
these. Is
Capital
it a
T.
capital T? These are the scores. And then a new line character here.
Yeah, and then I said plus, so outside of the string, just say plus in the same bracket.
Mhm.
And then you say a space dot join with the scores.
So scores dot.
No, empty space. So like two quotation marks with a
Oh.
space
The space
dot join
dot join.
and then scores in the brackets. Yeah.
So something like this.
Yes.
Great stuff. Okay, let's see if the test passes. That should be enough to make the test pass. Awesome stuff. Digital hands for Tandegi. Okay, that's good. Simple and straightforward. Cool. Okay. So now we have the last function. Well, not really the last, but where we display the average. So this function will use the list of scores to calculate the average of the scores, right? It takes in the scores, which is the list of strings, and will return a float of the average, right? Can we have a volunteer to do this one for us? Let's see, let me check the comments. Okay. Nice. So, okay, before we move on, I'm gonna quickly go back. Lindo Gutlewan said, okay, Paseka, noted, I'm gonna come to you just now. Can you please elaborate on join, right? Once again, so with any function in Python, if you want to get a gist of what it does, you just hover over it. So essentially, join will concatenate any number of strings, right? The string whose method is called is inserted in between each given string, and then the result is returned as a new string, right? So essentially, join is a string method, right? Join is a string method, and it essentially concatenates or joins, as the name suggests, any kind of iterable, right? So the iterable might be a list or whatever the case might be. Like it says that it takes in an iterable. It can be a list. Never had it with a dictionary, but anything that is an iterable, it joins using whatever that you specified in the string as the join, right? The joiner, right? So in this case, when you're joining the scores with an empty space here, you're saying for each element in the list of scores, I'm concatenating all of them, and then they will all be separated by a space, right? Meaning if I had a dot here, and then let's see if I can quickly print that out. Okay, yeah, do this. So let's say maybe you have this. Oh, this will be, yeah, much better. So right, if you give it, you will see that now it's joining, as you can see here. It's actually joining using the dots or the full stop as of, so whatever that you want to concatenate with, whatever the case might be, it will just use that. Right? Cool. Hope that makes sense. Cool. Paseka, yes, and then we're gonna come to you, Boitumelo. Okay, wait, Boitumelo, do you have a question regarding this display scores function?
No, it's not a question. I wanted to attempt the last one, but mine is not working. So I wanted some guidance here and there on why mine was not working.
Okay, awesome. Let's give Paseka a chance to present his, and then maybe we can take it from there. Paseka, over to you. There's a bit of echo.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so just name a variable, call it result, because I used names. Result
Okay.
equals to then list. Okay, and then inside the list, map. So yeah, map int comma scores.
Map.
Yeah, map, and then inside it we're gonna have integer. So int and then comma scores. All right, and then on the next line, you can just have a variable, call it just R. I just named it R. R equals to. So I open the bracket. I just go for the brackets and then sum. Okay, and then inside it put result.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Then outside the purple bracket, have a / then length of result. Cool. Then on the new line, just return round. And then you'll have what did I do? R and then comma 2, which is running off to the nearest 2. Running it up. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Cool.
Works. Please take us through from line 42. What's happening there? Line 43 and line 44, right? Okay. Line 42, I see you use maps there. What's the purpose of mapping and then turning it into a list?
Okay, so I don't know how other people did it, but I'm assuming like maybe they would have used the for loop to turn each and everything that's inside scores into an input and then save it, like append it into a new list or something. So by doing that is essentially creating a list, but inside that list, you are running another function, which is the map function. And it takes in 2 parameters, which is the iterator and what you want to do while it's iterating. right? So
Mhm.
the INT basically means while it's iterating, turn everything that's inside the iterable, which is scores, into an integer. Then now it means it will return a new list that yeah, everything is now converted into an integer. Then after that, we just make a new variable called R. You can name it anything. Then the sum function basically just takes all the numbers that are there, it sums them up, then you just divide by the length of the list that we just created. And then the round one, so if you actually remove the round function, you'll get like, I think it's 6,78888. Yeah, it's just a long thing. So you just round it up to 2 decimals by using the round function.
Using the round function. Okay, awesome stuff. That is great work. Digital hands for Paseka. That is absolutely great work. Okay, yes, Mtandeki has a question. Boitumelo will come back to you just now.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say you can do it in one line. So yeah, you can do it in one line without the map. Can I just send the one line in the chat for everyone to see and just copy paste? I don't know, instead of just narrating what I'm saying, but I'll just explain what I did.
Okay. Let's see what we have here. So take us through your one-liner.
So basically, it starts off with the list comprehension, right? So the square brackets is why I do the list comprehension. I say, turn score into an integer for score in scores. So we're given scores as the list. So I'm saying take an item in the list and then turn it into an integer and return a list with the list comprehension. And then after that, I call the sum function. It sums the list. And then after the sum, I divide the sum by the length of the scores. So that's going to give me the average. And then if it's a float, which it most likely will be, I just round it and then give it 2 decimals. Yeah.
Great stuff. Great stuff. That's a good use of list comprehensions. Great stuff. Great stuff. Yeah, I think that's clear enough. Clear enough. Yeah, digital hands for Tandeki. Yes, Boitumelo, do you want us maybe to then step in and guide you with maybe where you got stuck?
No, I think Paseka's code answered my problems.
Great stuff. Awesome. That's lovely. That's lovely. That is great work. That is great work. Cool. Okay. Okay, cool. So now we're just gonna go. So this one was just demonstrate the purpose of using loops in the main function. I didn't do any tests for it. Yeah, but we can get to it. So okay, so the main function gets user inputs and validates it, and then it runs the main loop of the program, right? Now, question 1 would be, which loop do you think it would be good to use in a case like this? Right? Okay. The comments are saying while loop. And that is 100% correct, because we do not know how many times a user will get the password correct or incorrect. Cool. Can we have one last volunteer to run us through the main loop or the main function? Okay, let's see. Okay, for the sake of time, because we're really out of time now, let us just do it. Cool. Remember the password that we were looking for is baby steps 2003, right? So maybe we can just have a variable there for that. Correct password was that. Cool. So essentially this will just read the scores. Can just have a simple while true. So if we're gonna use a while true, we definitely need to have a point where we break out of the loop, right? So it's not advised using a while true, honestly speaking, but for the purpose of this exercise, we'll go with that. Right, cool. So all we need to do is just have a variable there called user password. So we'll just take input from the user and ask them or password, let's call it password. Right, cool, please enter password. And then we say that if this user password, we can go as far as using .trim. Okay, if you want to know what .trim does, it's to remove the trailing white space. Okay, we'll get back to that. Strip, it's actually trim. In JavaScript, yeah, right? Okay, cool. So it's user password.strip, which will essentially return a copy of the string with leading and trailing white space removed, right? So if the user happened to enter a password and have a space at the end, right? So that's what this is for. So if that is equal to correct password, what we want to do is one, read from the file, right? We want to get scores from the file, pass it the file name being scores.txt, and then we can store that in the variable called scores, right? Once we get those scores, and then we can then display the average of the scores by passing in scores right there. And lastly, once we've displayed and calculated the average, we can then break out of the loop, right? So essentially what we're doing here is we're asking the user to enter the password. And then if what the user has entered is something close to or is the correct password, we then display the average for them and just break out of the loop. As we can test this out. So once you run your program, you'll say, please enter password. Let's enter incorrect password. You'll see that if you enter the incorrect password, it essentially will not reach this part of the code, right? Because that's where the check is happening here, where we are saying, if user password is equals to the correct password, then do that. If it's not, just carry on. Right? So in the case where we do enter the right password, in the case where we do enter the correct password, then it essentially displays the average for us, right? We can even go as far as printing it out since it's just returning it. And voila, Bob's your uncle. Prints out the average for you right there. Cool. Okay, I wasn't looking at my screen the entire time. I hope that is clear enough. Yes, Paseka has a question. Paseka, you can unmute.
I forgot I had my hand down. I don't have a question.
Oh, okay, it's from previous. Okay, no worries. So okay, Lindogutle, it says we must print the scores. Yeah, we can also go as far as printing the scores. Let's see what the instructions said. That's true, actually. It says display the scores and then cool. I'll come back to your question, Lindo. Let's just quickly solve this. So all you would have to do is just call the display function. Don't have to do anything more than that. And then we just pass it the scores that comes from the text file. Right? Awesome. Okay, there we go. There we go. Thank you, Mole. So Lindogutle asks, do we have to strip here? In the case, well, this is just for a fail-safe measure, right? In a case where the password is correct, just that there was just a trailing either white space maybe at the beginning or at the end, right? So all strip does is just remove those extra spaces that we don't need. So it's a nice to have, it's not a necessity, right? It's just a nice to have. Hope that answers you, Lindogutle.
Yes,
Cool.
Mxolisi, can you please explain this? Sorry, I didn't do this one, so I'm a bit confused. Line 57.
Line 57. Okay, cool. So what is essentially happening on line 57 is, so this is how these functions are essentially communicating, right? You'll notice that the other two or the rest of the functions were relying on this list, right, of scores, right? So what then happens is we are on line 57 calling this function called get scores from file, right? Right? So get scores from file. So essentially what's going to happen is that the compiler, you'll see that here we're only calling the main function, nothing else, right? So what's going to happen is that once our code is running. Once it reaches line 57, it will go to the function definition and pass this as the file name, right? And then our function here will come in and do the magic and return that list of scores for us. Whatever that's being returned here will then be in turn stored inside the scores variable, right? That scores variable will then, which means now we now have the actual list now that we've been looking for, right? Then we use that very same list to pass to here on line 58, pass those scores to the display scores function, right? I hope that clears it up for you. Awesome
Yes.
stuff. Awesome stuff. Cool. Once again, it's very important that if you have a while true, then somewhere needs to be a break in your in your while loop, right? You'll see that there are many ways to other ways more efficient than others. But there's always more than one way to tackle writing your code for either a function or your program, whatever the case might be. You'll notice that there's always more than one way. There are shortcuts. We saw Umtandegi with the one-liners and all that, right? That is encouraged. What's even more important is that before we go to the shortcuts, before we do the cool stuff, the one-liners, we need to make sure that we understand the longer way, right? So if you want to take a shortcut, always make sure that you remember the original way, which is the longer way. So that should the shortcut lead you astray, you can always go back to your safety net, which is the longer way to do stuff, right? Which is, I think that's the purpose of all this, so that we go back to the basics and we actually solve these problems in the simplest way possible. Cool. Toji sent something there, says file. And suppose aha. Great stuff. That is absolutely correct. Let me just. So that is absolutely correct. You can, by all means, do this. Yes. Let's see. It's just a bit of indentations there and there. Tab. Okay, but here you did not define. So what you're passing here is not the file in itself, but the scores, right? You need to understand what's being returned here. It returns a list of scores, right? So yeah, careful with your the naming of your variables, right? It needs to make sense to what you're actually referring to. Cool. This one indentation up, but this is absolutely correct apart from that. Cool. Hope that makes sense. Great stuff. Okay, I think we've reached the end of our second session. Quite productive. I won't give you anything to work on over the day. I just want you to spend the rest of today, or at least 15 minutes of your time, to just reflect, update your journal, reflect on the past 3 days, the fundamentals that we've done, and what you have picked up so far, right? And then we will reconvene tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be playing an engaging and fun game as part of the last day of our code retreat, right? So yeah, think that's about it. Peace wants to ask updates on when you get your results. So the results are ready, and they should be going out. Lindo, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but during the course of this week, you will be receiving your results. I think all is good now. We just need to send them out. So yeah, expect them this week. Are we writing this week? Yes, we are writing this week. We will be writing. You will see that your calendar will update if it hasn't already. You will be rewriting your Python syntax, which is assessment 1 on Thursday. Right? Lindo, please come in. Asimanye is Asimanye on the call? Asimanye is not on the call. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, but you will be writing this coming Thursday, writing your assessment 1 syntax. And then the following week, you will be writing your assessment. Okay, so Lindo prefers that we get the results after the test. I think it would motivate you even more to if you get them before the test, right? Because now you know that you can do this. You can achieve a much higher score than the one that you got initially, right? So, but we'll discuss that with the other performance members. Cool. Cool, but you will get an update on that. In the absence of any further questions, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the session. See you tomorrow at 10. Have a lovely day and chat tomorrow.